Welcome to our YouTube channel, In Our Basement. My name is Niels.
And I'm Gail. We're going to be having conversations and share our thoughts about things that we're really passionate about.
And just before we get started, go ahead and hit that subscribe button.
And if you like the content, then feel free to share it on your social media platform.
So, going on further with that, we'll segue into our next topic. And that has to do with watching of the news. There's a really special anniversary coming up, and that's the anniversary of COVID.
Happy COVID-versary.
Really, it's the anniversary of when they went
pandemic-versary?
It's a pandemic-versary. Yeah, for your 1 year anniversary, you get 5 masks.
Oh my goodness.
And what else? I don't know.
Well, can I say the headline that I saw just before this?
Yeah, tell me. So,
CDC, they did a study over 2 months.
Right.
And it was found that, I want to see if I wrote this in my phone. So it was found it was 1 point something, so under 2% difference from wearing a mask and not wearing a mask. That's the it was 2% under 2% difference of your chances of getting COVID from wearing a mask to not wearing a mask.
Yeah, I remember hearing that a couple days ago.
It was released on March 7th.
Yeah.
And it's just that's crazy.
Yeah. So it's just eye-opening, right? When that comes out.
Yeah.
You know? But yeah, so we're almost a year into our pandemic anniversary. And I will say, going into the pandemic, the next thing I want to talk about is how the news for myself has definitely created fear and anxiety. Now, with my line of work, I was watching the news mainly to stay updated because it was helping in what we were doing for pandemic response with the government and such.
You needed to be in the know because you needed to...
But what it did, though, I needed to be in the know, and I needed to know the facts and understand the context of what was happening. But what it did to me during that time was that, I was very much addicted to, and I say addicted because it was at 9 o'clock, I needed to tune in to CTV News to hear what Lisa LaFlamme was saying. I had the theme song down packed too. Dun, 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 dun. Or when it's breaking news, right? So it's I really just needed to be in the know of what was happening, and I think I struggled with that even throughout the summer and needing to know what was happening with the racial tensions after George Floyd died. I needed to just be in the know of all that, not realizing that for myself that the news for me was triggering just fear, worry, and anxiety. I needed to know what was happening next. And especially everything was just so current off the hop because then it was just oh my gosh, we got 50 something cases. And this is at the start, right? 50 something cases in BC. Or Toronto is shutting everything down.
Yeah.
Or Saskatchewan's doing a public health announcement. Manitoba has 1 case.
Yeah. We live in Manitoba.
Right.
And so,
these things are all serious. I get that. But I came to the realization that the news has an agenda on the narrative that they're trying to feed, right? Things may or may not be politically motivated. And so what I needed to do was I needed to discern the difference between knowing what is factual to what they are trying to trigger and feel and get me to feel.
And this was something else that I saw today was that although it may seem to be simplistic to be effective, repeating the same message over and over makes people believe it, even if it goes against their best interests. Repetition is an effective mind control, and repetition affects so it's basically sometimes what the government is doing and media is doing is repeating messages until you believe it.
Yeah, that too, right? I mean, I get it. They're doing it to try, for everyone's public safety and health.
Yeah, for safety, yes.
But at the same time,
they're trying to get fear into you.
It seemed like the news itself and the news anchors, it seemed like they were trying to instill fear, right? To create an emotional reaction, making us very vulnerable to compliance and control. We're not.
And I was somebody who, and I guess I still am,
Right.
but I get that fear. I was in a very tough emotional place.
So you knew that I was watching the news to stay updated for work.
Yeah.
But there was a time where I was just like, where, you were watching it with me. And then I'd be like, oh my gosh, did this just happen? Oh my gosh, they're not going to get a vaccine. Oh my gosh. Oh, so there was a time.
Oh my gosh, Trump says this is going to be over by Easter?
Yeah, Trump said it's going to be over by Easter. Yeah, he's like, the virus will just come up and it'll just disappear. So you hear something like him say that and you wonder, well, what did he mean by that? What did he mean by the virus would disappear as things got warmer? I'll let you interpret what you think that means. But I will say that I was getting fired up. And here's what happens. So Gail just disconnects from the news. And then I see me then disconnecting many, many months later. So what got you to just disconnect from it? Because for me, it took some processing to realize what happened to me. But for you, it just happened naturally.
So for me, I'm a very sensitive person emotionally.
One of the many things I love about her.
It has its strengths and it has its weaknesses. But with the amount of, I think part of it was I had a difficult time seeing you and what it was doing to you, and seeing you have that negative, like that hurt.
Right.
And so I recognized, okay, when I watch the news, when I'm sitting here watching the news with Niels, then I'm feeling hurt. And I think that is adding to my anxiety and my darkness over this whole pandemic. And so I was able to recognize I need to step back. I need to take like a step back and remove myself, at least somewhat, so that I can take care of my mental health and so that I can find happiness and peace again, because I was in just a constant state of anxiety, I think, when I was taking in the news, when I was like reading all the headlines, when I was watching all of these clips and such. I recognized that was not something that my emotional state, my sensitivity, me as a person could take in.
That's really good. Yeah. So you realized your limits.
Yeah.
And then even like, I remember there were times where it was like the fall and I'd be like, okay, I'm going to watch the news because I just need to get the quick headlines for work. And you'd be like, okay, just let me leave the room.
Yep.
Right.
And thank you for allowing me to do that.
Yeah. And thankfully with PVR, you can pause and you can go back to it. Right. So then I remember what happened. I think around the November, December timeframe, things changed with the job requirement for needing to stay current. So I didn't need to as much, which was fine. And then I kind of broke that sort of spell that was over me. And, and let me elaborate.
So this is fall 2020.
Yeah, this is fall 2020. So what kind of happened is I didn't need to stay updated anymore. And I just decided I'm going to stop watching it. But I still just caught the basic glimpses of headlines for what was happening.
Yeah, you would basically watch the first 10 minutes or something.
Yeah, I'd watch the first 10 minutes. And even with the public health briefings, they were doing those every day. I just literally, there came a time where I would just literally even watch the first 3 or 4 minutes before the reporters started asking questions, because you could tell with the tone and the way in which they're asking the question, there seems to be just a bit of they're trying to stir an emotion and a feeling in people, in the viewer. So I saw that stirring in me, this negative tension. And so I just cut myself off from it. And so all I really did was I just went on Twitter and I just got the update from Manitoba. Okay, we got this many cases. Or, when new restrictions were coming out.
They would be listed on.
Yeah, they would be listed on Twitter. Yeah. Or I would just quickly listen for the first 5 minutes, and then knowing that they were going to talk for an hour, just to be like, oh, so what's opening, what's closing, what's the percentage for churches, how many people can gather. I would just get the facts before I started listening to the way that they were messaging, so that it didn't affect my emotion. And then I listened to like just some other like independent news sources and some podcasts and YouTubers, and they were talking about the effect of the news being very like hypnotizing in just like, you know, it grabs a hold of people. Like I said, it makes you have fear, anxiety, and tension.
And just like I said before, how repetition is mind control, and that's what the news is doing, the media is doing.
And so what it started to do was that the moment I was able to keep informed with a minimal amount, you know, just through getting the facts. But the moment I kind of stopped really watching the news all together, that's when I felt like I was just like I had more peace. I felt like I could breathe easier, right? And I'm just gonna again give my opinion, because this is what like our podcast and our show is, and we appreciate so much for our viewers that you tune in and hear our perspective on things. But if you're watching the news, in my opinion, and you see like a panel of 3 or 4 people, not necessarily reporting, but they're giving their opinions on things, I just ask you to ask yourself that question. Like, are they giving the news, or are they actually sharing their opinion, or they're trying to get you to feel a certain way? Because then it's gone from just reporting the news to them spewing their opinion on you to trigger an emotion and a reaction inside of you.
And even some of the ways that news is reported, the words that are being said or the emotions that are said behind the news headlines is somewhat manipulative too in making you, oh yes, okay, I agree with you. I believe that what you're saying. And so I think what we want in you listening to this, to us, and when you are reading news headlines or watching the news, is ask yourself, okay, this is what they're saying, but how do I feel about this? Do I believe this? Or like, if this is something that you feel passionate about, like look into it, find the facts. This
is just it. Like, we're in a season where like where we don't even know what the truth is these days. You know, we got to trust like the news or the right people to tell us the truth. But it's like, because it's like one day, you know, a politician could come up on TV and say, hey, we're doing this, this, and that. And suddenly one news anchor will be supporting the politician and what they said. And then another one will be challenging it. And suddenly, like, you know, or you know, a week later, they've now changed what they've said. So they've gone from being truth tellers to liars, or liars to truth tellers. So it just like bounces like back and forth, where we're in a season where we actually like really, it's very, very difficult for me to know exactly what the truth is these days, right? You know, it's like that scene in A Few Good Men where, you know, it's like Jack Nicholson says to Tom Cruise, or you want the truth, you can't handle the truth. Well, for me, it's that I couldn't really handle the news anymore because it was giving me anxiety and fear and such. And it's tough to be able to not know what the truth is these days, because I think we have to really work hard to find it on our own. Yeah, for sure. How has that been for you with like finding the truth and things these days? Well, for me, I have just been kind of trying to stay back, and I am very blessed to have a husband who knows what is needed to know, and to be known. And so I have people who post things on social media that I read, and I think you share some things with me too. You know what I can handle, right? So I don't, you know, I try not to overwhelm her. Like it's tough, but I have other things in life that I focus on that I'm more happy to focus on than everything that's going on in the world. Yeah, exactly. And so, it's just finding that balance of, okay, how much do I need to be invested in knowing the things that are going on in this world, and how much can I be invested in my own mental state, my own life, what's going on around me in my circle. Right. Yeah, totally. So it's finding a balance for yourself. Yeah, a healthy balance. Yeah, and so maybe for you, the encouragement is, just to like limit your exposure to what you're watching on TV through the news or through the phones or through our apps, because, through these devices we have like access to, I'm holding up my cell phone here, but like, we have access to everything at the palm of our hands. And so like our
social
devices,
media. Oh
yeah. And so
because you're going to be hearing your friends' points of views, their the way that they think about things. And so you've all got all of these different people around you. You've got the media, you've got your friends, you've got your acquaintances, all seeing their perspective and their opinions on what's going on. And so you have to be careful. It's like limit your social media time too.
Yeah, exactly. And I'll even emphasize that we are in a season where it is so hard to discern what the truth is. Yeah. And so my prayer and hope for you is that, you will be able to discern it, and like, don't be afraid to ask questions. And it's tough because we live in a cancel cultural world where if you ask a question, you might get canceled for it. I really pray and hope that stops soon. But, I don't think we should be shamed for our ability to critically think about things. Like if something doesn't make sense and you're critically thinking through it, we all have God-given brains here.
Yeah. It's like, is there a question that you're not allowed to ask?
I don't know, right? But the thing is, though, is that we shouldn't be penalized for asking challenging questions, right? Yeah. Because we only get smarter when we talk and when we can have, respectful dialogue.
Yeah. And that's the thing is making sure when you do have these conversations that you do them in a respectful way and not get heated or take people's questions personally. It's that like, I have this curiosity or I have this desire to know this. And so can we please talk about this so that I can be more educated on it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's a verse that comes to my mind, which has really actually just helped me in this season. And it's John 8, verse 32. It's, and you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. And so that's encouraging. I'm going to read that one more time. John 8, verse 32. And you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. And so, like, my hope for you is, as you take in so much information, that with wisdom, healthy discussion, and conversations, you can, really process what you're seeing around you, and that the truth will prevent itself, that, you'll make your decisions and considerations for whatever, based on facts and truth. But, we're all God-given people with brains, and we need to really just be able to discern ourselves with wisdom, through wisdom, on what the best decision is to make during these times when there's so much coming at us, right? And sometimes to help clear our heads and to be able to make that decision, we might just be able to silence everything around us so that we can think clearly and get that headspace back.
Yeah. So this has been some very heavy topics.
Yeah,
but,
it's good.
I really hope that this is something that can bring light to some darkness for you, and the truth will set you free.
Yeah, and I really like what you said. We really need lots of light in a time of darkness. Yeah. And speaking of light,
it's daylight savings times.
It is or if you've listened to this, a week or two later, it's past daylight savings time. But the beautiful reality of this is that we are getting more sunlight these days. Yep. And when the sun comes, things heat up, things get better, morale goes up, right?
Yeah. So. Yeah, it's nice. We're getting to the season where we can be outside in Winnipeg, Manitoba, and up in Canada where the winter is not the warmest.
Yeah, that's been really good for my mental health, is actually just going outside.
Yeah, right? Going outside for walks and going for some bubble tea. We've been enjoying bubble tea as of late. I don't know if that's just part of, I'm pregnant, so I don't know if that's part of that or if it's, but anyways.
Yeah, to like end on a happy note, I guess something that I think about is, we talked about, the royal family. We talked about the news and the truth and topics that, you know, we're really passionate about, that we've been processing for the past little while, because we're in a challenging season. And I think for me, I just want like our kid to be born into just a much, much better world, a world where they can think for themselves, make their own decisions, grow up and be who God has called them to be, you know. And
what is this world going to look like for the next generation? We pray for positive, sunny. Totally
sunny. What?
Oh, no, the sunshine.
The sunshine, yeah.
I have a nephew and his name's Sunny.
Yeah, he's a bright kid, but
he's a bright kid. Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us today in our basement.
Thanks for joining us today in our basement.
Yeah, and before you go, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. Go ahead and share this content in your social media platforms, and we hope to see you next time in our basement.